Welcome to the kitchen. Some would call me a master chef.
So, what exactly is it that we're doing today? Well, I can tell you one thing, and it has to do with what is inside this fridge right here. Onions. And probably this dog. Oh, or probably not. Anyway, yes, today I'm gonna make onion rings, and according to my magical all-knowing mobile electronic device, I'm gonna need one large onion, and I found one. Unfortunately, however, it appears to be rotten. I do, however, have this bag of smaller onions and can substitute 2 for a large one. The recipe also requires a quart of oil, and being a normal person, I didn't have that much. Luckily, after scraping around the kitchen, I was just barely able to find enough. So I've got some nice, great value avocado and organic extra virgin olive oil. Next, I'm gonna need some all-purpose flour. Now I have this healthy 5-pound bag of whole wheat organic flour that I could use, but that would be disgusting and morally wrong, so I'm gonna use this 15-year-old tub of flour instead. It's like wine, right? Tastier the longer it sits in the tub. Next, I'm gonna need some baking powder, stored in a perfectly normal container, and one medium-sized egg that's actually kind of small. But we don't discriminate here. As you can see, I tried to balance it, but that didn't work, and after a minute or so of trying, I gave up. And that's when I came to a shocking discovery.
We don't have milk. Oh, crap.
We were all out of cow lactate. So I went to the store. If you happen to live in the Northwest, I'm sure you have tasted the wonderful flavors of Merchant's Craft. This one, Fizzleberry, happens to be my personal favorite. And now that I've got all the ingredients and a drink in my hand, we can move on to the next part. Cooking. Before we actually cook though, we must complete the most important step, and that is washing our hands. Not just to protect others, but ourselves as well. Because we should always practice self-care, and remind ourselves how much we love us. And also, because I plan on sharing these with my family, and I would prefer not to give them a terrible bacteria that would kill them. Even though that probably wouldn't happen, you should still wash your hands, because I know you didn't the last time you used the bathroom. Now onto the first real step. Cut the onions into rings. Now I had no idea how to cut the onions into rings, and so I had to consult the Google. First, I remove the papery outer skin, and then I remove the first layer. After looking around the kitchen, all I could find was possibly the dullest knife in a 5-mile radius. But I persevered, and with my professional cooking skill, I was able to masterfully cut both of the onions into rings. Once that was done, it was time to make the batter. So I mixed together the flour and the baking powder. However, I only had a salt grinder and I didn't know how to make a teaspoon of salt out of it. So I just eyeballed it and put the salt in my hand and hand salt into the mixture in the process. And once there was enough powder on the ground to get a search warrant, I coated each of the onion rings in the wonderful powder of powderness. After coating them all and taking a bite out of the delicious powder, it was time to make the batter. Although I felt the bowl was a little small, so I moved the batter to a large one for mixing. I put in the small egg with a large heart and the cow juice. And even though it says to whisk with a fork, I whisked with a whisk instead, because I am a big boy and I can do what I want. And after a little whisking, the batter was looking proper, so I began to coat the rings, which turned out to be more fun than I thought. The recipe says to let the rings drip on a wire rack, but I don't have one of those, so I just used aluminum foil. After that was done, it was on to the final step. Coat the rings in breadcrumbs, or in our case, the yummy Thanksgiving stuffing crumbs. They looked a little big and I couldn't find anything to crush them, so I just used my hands. I brought out another sheet of aluminum foil to transfer the rings to and began to coat them with the crumbs, but despite my efforts, they were way too big still and they didn't stick very well at all. But I did munch on a few of them and they are very delicious. Moving over here to the stove, I ended up pouring all of the avocado and extra virgin olive oil into the pot and turned the heat all the way up. For future reference, a quart is 4 cups. I waited for the oil to boil. And it proved to be way too hot even after I measured it, so I brought down the temperature and now it was finally time.
We are very interested in having Michael over and off for a visit. There's 20 more of them on there. These things right here.
There it is. So good. But they were cooking way too fast, and looking back, I can see that I definitely burnt them a little. No big deal, however. They are just extra crispy. After drying them all off onto a paper towel, it was time for the taste test. And the verdict?
So, let's do the show.
Something a little burnt, maybe a little less than oil.
How long is that gonna take? A while.
I like them crunchy.
Aftertaste of the crumbs is almost sour. However, my brother loved them, as long as they were covered in some Sweet Baby Ray's, that is, because Sweet Baby Ray's makes everything that much better. So what did I learn from this? A lot. First off, I need a bigger onion and more of them. Second, get actual breadcrumbs instead of the stuffing crumbs. And third, turn the heat down. Don't burn my onion rings. Well, that's all for now, but I hope you enjoyed watching my wonderful attempt at making food. And if you did like the video, please tune in next time when I do something else completely and totally random. Goodbye.